Let's talk some sports, baby.
Taken by Iguodala. Iguodala to Curry. Back to Iguodala. Up for the layup. Oh, blocked by Jones.
And remember, make tomorrow better than today, and make today better than yesterday. And you know what we gonna do. We gonna holler at you until next time, baby.
The NFC West. Cardinals look to build around last year's first overall pick, Kyler Murray, while the Rams navigate this draft without a first-rounder, courtesy of Jalen Ramsey. Seahawks pick 27th, and the 49ers pick both 13th and 31st, thanks to the Colts trade for DeForest Buckner. Jay, the Cards hope to take a step forward with Kingsbury and Murray. How are they going to do that next week?
We just talked about it. The Rams, they about to take a step back, so they'll benefit from that. But yeah, on a serious note, the Cardinals, I think they could stand to get a little bit stronger at the in the interior of their offensive line. That's not to say their tackles are great, but I think the need is more on the interior. I think DJ Humphries and Marcus Gilbert, they're serviceable. I'm thinking about Matt Hennessy out of Temple. I think he's a guy you could plug in at center and anchor that offensive line for you. I think the defensive tackle, on the defensive line, I think they need to get stronger there as well. I think if the Panthers somehow trade out of that number 7 spot, and that opens up Derek Brown, I think that's a no-brainer. I think you get Derek Brown in there, and you let him take care of you on the interior of your defensive line. Or maybe if you can't get Derek Brown, maybe you think about Ross Blacklock out of TCU. And then I think their secondary outside of Patrick Peterson is a little concerning. I think safety is probably the bigger need. I would consider Kayvon Wallace or Terrell Burgess, Clemson and Utah, respectively.
Got you muted, Drink. Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
There you are.
Okay. I don't know. My computer did something weird. So, with that said, hey, I'm thinking Cliff Kingsbury going to live on the offense side of the ball. I think his first 2 picks going to be probably offensive lineman. His prized possession is Kyler Murray. He's going to protect Kyler Murray. He wants Kyler Murray to be able to get that ball out to that newly acquired wide receiver, DeAndre Hopkins. So I'm looking at maybe Jedrick Wills getting drafted with that first pick. We talk about the 4 tackles, so any other 4 good pick don't matter. And then I'm looking at with the third round pick, I should say, I'm looking at Calvin Throckmorton coming out of Oregon. We underlooked how good that offensive line was for Justin Herbert down there. It was like 4 seniors and a junior, I think. So that was a very veteran-laden offensive line. And then with that third pick, I'm looking at another wide receiver to throw the ball to. Listen, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Fitzgerald. Got it. He's there. He's 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You got DeAndre Hopkins. You need another young guy on the other side of DeAndre Hopkins, because you're going to be playing Larry Fitzgerald in the slot most likely. So I'm looking at a guy, Gabriel Davis, coming out of UCF to complement DeAndre Hopkins and Fitzgerald. So I'm looking at offensive tackle for the first 2 picks and then wide receiver for the third one.
Yeah, offensive tackle again struck me as this is another spot that one would come off the board here. Either Willis or Wirfs makes the most sense. Kyler Murray was sacked a boatload of times last year, and some of that is obviously that rookie decision making, but the line had a big part in that, and some of the names they have are just underwhelming, So I think that getting one of these premium talents at the 8th pick would make a lot of sense. But again, like Jay kind of alluded to, the wild card is if Derek Brown or Isaiah Simmons fall. A lot of drafts do have Brown here, but Simmons is the one that really interests me because the Cardinals defense allowed the most yards in the league last year. Linebacker and edge kind of both stand out as needs, and Simmons, he can do both. I mean, he can not only anchor that linebacking core, but he can also drop back. He can rush. I mean, he can do everything. And there's some rumblings about the Giants maybe going for a tackle to protect Daniel Jones. And if quarterbacks go 5-6 and Brown goes 7, hey, there's Isaiah Simmons at 8. And that scenario is not some complete off-the-wall, never going to happen thing, right? So as much as I would want to beef up my line, if I have this defense that's very porous and needs to be addressed at some positions, especially at linebacker, and this guy falls to me at 8, I would be remiss if I didn't go ahead and just pick him and then to worry about offensive line in a deep draft class later on down the line, because you can get an offensive lineman. You ain't getting no Isaiah Simmons in this draft. I promise you that. So it's probably the last time I'm going to gush over him for now. But yeah, this is a guy that, I mean, you just think about that defense and the fact that he could be just instant defense, just add water in this dude, so that'd be a hard precedent to think about going forward. All right, Jake, let's move on to the Rams. They don't have any first-round picks. They got 2 second-round picks and kind of a mess. What do you got for them?
Kind of a mess. Oh, my God. Man, I wouldn't be surprised if they try to argue with paying these rookies the full rookie rate. Hey, hold on. We got to pay you that. Like, oh, my God, finances are terrible there. That's what you get when you get stuff on credit. You got to actually pay for it. Layaway, it only goes so far. It looks good in the front. Get you on the back. That's what the Rams dealing with. With the first position for the Rams, I'm looking at offensive guard. I see I'm thinking Solomon Kinley coming out of Georgia to fill in that inside hole. I don't know that. I just don't know. I thought they took care of the offensive line a little bit in the draft last year, but it just didn't look right. Jared Goff, and it's sad to say because as poor as he played, it wasn't all on him. The offensive line was atrocious. So I hope they can get that fixed with Solomon Kinley. And then I'm looking at cornerback, somebody to play on the other side of Jalen Ramsey if you pay him. If you don't pay him, I don't know. I'm looking at Damian Arnett coming out of Ohio State on the other side of him. And then also I'm looking at, come back to the offensive line, I'm looking at offensive tackle, Trey Adams coming out of Washington. So the way I look at it is they're going to try to get some protection for Goff. Get another guy on the other side of Jalen Ramsey, so they could try to build the brain trust again and not take the Cardinals' place within the division.
Yeah, the Rams. Yeah, this thing could. They got a lot of needs for a team that just was in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. This thing could come crashing down pretty quickly, especially when you take into consideration some of the investments they made. I still think they're going to pay Todd Gurley a fair amount of money this season. And with that in mind, I got running back as one of their big needs. Jared Goff. Listen, he's a nice player. He can make a lot of throws for you, but. Think about when the Rams were at their height with Sean McVay doing stuff for you. It was all set up courtesy of the running game with Todd Gurley. And with that in mind, they don't have a first round pick, so they gotta hope and pray that one of these big time running back prospects maybe drops a little bit. So I'm thinking about DeAndre Swift. I'm thinking about J.K. Dobbins. Those would be guys I would be thinking about. Hopefully they fall for you. But yeah, cornerback, I agree with you on that. I got Trayvon Diggs down, but Arnett, anybody in that second round, I think there'll be some good value picks that you can get there. And it's a big need because, yeah, I understand you got Jalen Ramsey in there, but you traded Marcus Peters, Aqib Talib. I don't know what happened to him, but he ain't playing for you. And Nickel Roby-Coleman, he left the building too. So a lot of turnover in that defensive backfield, and you got to. Look, it's the modern day NFL. You need 3 good corners out there to go ahead and cover these spread type offenses. And I think inside linebacker, that's another position that they're a little thin at. No Corey Littleton no more. He went off to Oakland. So Logan Wilson, guy people may not be thinking about, played at Wyoming, but they're going to need some help at inside linebacker as well.
Yeah, I mean, the mess they have is going to take more than 2 second-round picks to solve. From a needs perspective, it's funny, like you mentioned, like Jay just mentioned, and Drink you too, running back, cornerback, linebacker, all they kind of sort of stand out when you just look at the roster and look at, okay, what would they need this year? But with the salary cap mess they're already in, if you're heading towards the darker days when Jalen Ramsey gets extended, they're going to have to start cutting money sooner than later. And so you have to start thinking about positions like tight end, left tackle, wide receiver. They look interesting because down the road, maybe I can't afford a Robert Woods. Maybe I can't afford a Tyler Higbee because I'm paying an Island Nation's GDP to Goff, Donald, and Ramsey. So, like, if I'm thinking about this from the draft perspective, those are some of the positions I may think of this year. So in a year or two, I can start making some cuts. Another one you could think of, tapping this deep offensive line class for Whitworth's departure is possible. Running back is still going to be smart. Regardless, if you can find a good one in the second round, which there'll be guys that'll be worth taking there, like Jay said, and there's some other guys, maybe Cam Akers falls, who knows? There'll be some premium guys there in the second round. Maybe Zach Bond fits well from Wisconsin, kind of an inside-outside linebacker guy, can play a little bit of both positions in that defense. But yeah, they've got to start thinking long-term because this is about to be a pretty significant issue for them. All right, guys, we have the Seahawks up next. Jay, they have 7 picks, including number 27. Russell Wilson getting some help?
You know what? I certainly hope so. I hate to beat this dead horse, but this offensive line, they've neglected to protect this man for years. I like that they brought in Dwayne Brown a few years ago. What do you know? What do you know? Another good player, Bill O'Brien, let go. Well, maybe that wasn't his call. Maybe that's unfair. But anyway, hey, Dwayne Brown, he's about 34 years of age now, and that right tackle spot, it ain't looking too good. So Drink's been doubling it up lately on positions. I wouldn't be surprised. I like to see him take 2 offensive tackles. I'm looking at 3 guys. Maybe you get a 2-for-3 special with Josh Jones, Lucas Niang, Austin Jackson, 2 or 3 of them, and I'd be satisfied. And I think edge rusher, that's a position they need to get solidified. Jadeveon Clowney is still unsigned, probably still wants way too much money for 3 sacks per season. So maybe you look at A.J. Epinesa or Yatir Gross-Matos out of Penn State. And then I think I like their starting safeties with Quandre Diggs and Bradley McDougald, but never hurts to have a third safety that you can plug in your sub packages. And I'm thinking about Brandon Jones out of Texas. I think he could be a guy that you could utilize well in those situations.
Oh, yeah. So it's funny you say, hey, it's about time to give Russell Wilson some help. It's just like when they said, it's about time to run the ball on the 1-yard line. And I say that to say this. Here's the deal. Hey, Pete Carroll, he wants to create that Legion of Boom one more time before he call it quits. So I see all 3 of the first picks going on the defense rather than the offense. I don't think he relatively give a rip about the offense, me personally. I mean, just look at the moves he made. If he give a rip, he sure don't look like it. I mean, he brought back Marshawn Lynch, for God's sakes. I mean, how much do you really care? So, look, I'm looking at you just brought up the safeties. I think one of those guys is going to be up out of here. I can't tell you which one I think is going to be out of here. I think they take a strong look at Xavier McKinnon in the first round. Get him back there, replacing one of those guys, whichever one that they feel not cutting the cheese or they won't be able to make a deal with in the future. Replace one of them. You slap in Xavier McKinnon. Defensive end, you brought up Jadeveon Clowney. Hey, you want to keep holding out? Hey, don't worry about it, Bucko. We're going to mess around here and maybe take Marlon Davidson in the first round and or the second round, and, you know, we'll holler at you, player, because we ain't got time for this bull crap. I mean, you did come over and help us in that one primetime game, but outside of that, what else did you give us? So I'm thinking they go and draft Marlon Davidson out of Auburn. And then, hey, cornerback is a need. That's all there is to it. We looked at those cornerbacks that they got there now. Decent, not great. And, hey, go out there and get you a Trayvon Diggs, the bottom of the second, maybe even the third, depending on how you look at it. He slides. So I'm looking at a safety, a defensive end, and a cornerback for the Seattle in this draft.
Yeah, the trenches also jumped out to me as kind of their biggest needs. Again, we don't really compare notes too much in this, but we all kind of often find the same players in need. Russell Wilson does kind of float your premier needs at skill positions, and the secondary is okay, but Drink's right. A corner could definitely be someone you got to look at later on. But up front, I think they're first going to probably watch to see which edge prospects fall down to them. This is going to be one of those things at 27. Again, you kind of watch to see who comes down. And if Gross-Matos, Epinesa, or Chasing any of them fall, they would fit well in kind of the system. But again, it's largely dependent on who goes where. Gross-Matos might be the most available of those. But then if not, the interior offensive line makes a lot of sense. Again, like Jay mentioned, Josh Jones, Austin Jackson, maybe Cesar Ruiz is still there. You know, any of those guys you could plug in that offensive line, because Russell Wilson does need some help. For crying out loud, this man is just it's criminal what they do to him and make him put up with. Later on, you can come back to whatever position you miss. Defensive line isn't as deep as offensive line, but you can still come back to it later on. And then maybe you look at what's left of the highly rated wide receivers. And maybe the second round, you can find a guy like that. Some of the leftovers of this good class to fill a need there. All right, guys, 49ers are up last drink. They got 13 and 31. So what of our Super Bowl runner-ups going after?
Well, so I've been hearing a lot of chatter about me personally. I think they should take another wide receiver. get another guy out there to help Jimmy Garoppolo out. I think who it would help out more is George Kittle, to be honest. But get another guy that you can use in the same manner that you kind of use Deebo Samuels in. So with that said, I think Henry Ruggs would be that guy that you can use in that manner where you can throw a lot of short passes. If you don't feel that Jimmy Garoppolo can get it done down the field, you could throw a short pass to this guy, and his speed just gonna take it. He's going to give you 5 right off the ripskit. So I'm thinking wide receiver, Henry Ruggs. Then I'm looking at cornerback Cameron Dantzler out of Mississippi State. He jumps out to me at this present time that they'll be picking because you would think the premium on cornerback would have been pressed by now. So those guys will be off the board. And then I'm looking at safety as the third position. Aloha Gilman coming out of Notre Dame. And I just want to say this before I move on. Notre Dame sure do got a lot of good guys coming out in early rounds for this performance that Brian Kelly is putting up. Every time he play a big game, he gets smoked. And then I just want to throw that out there. Notre Dame is getting a real good pass over here, maybe even at a greater level than Iowa. But to stay on subject, my 3 guys was wide receiver, cornerback, and safety for the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, we haven't talked a whole lot in depth about teams that'll be looking to make trades, but the 49ers have 2 first-round picks, and then they don't have a second, third, or fourth. And they acquired that second first-round pick in the DeForest Buckner trade. That seems like a pick. It seems like pretty obvious that would be a trade back and try to acquire some more picks. But I guess you never know. I mean, if they got a guy at 13, if they can get a guy they can think could be a superstar wide receiver, maybe you go ahead and take it and just live with what you got. But I got them trading back, and I think I look at offensive tackle. Joe Staley is still playing at a pretty high level, but Clowney did give him the business last year. That was the one game we saw Clowney do some real stuff for him. So I look at Joe Staley, and I think that it's time to maybe draft a potential replacement, groom him behind him. Probably a developmental guy, because I think Staley can still give you 1 or 2 more fairly good years. I'm thinking about Ben Barch out of St. John's. He's a developmental guy that it's going to take some time for him to get it cooking, but I think learning behind Staley for a year or 2, I think that's something you could take a look at. And then the linebacker position, Quan Alexander, Fred Warner, they got some good guys, but I think they're in need of one more linebacker. And when I think about Alexander and Warner, that's not to say they can't play against the run, but especially Warner, I think he excels more in pass coverage. And I just think they need a little bit more physicality and a guy that can really stand up against the run. I'm thinking about Evan Weaver out of California. I think he'd fit in well there. And then we've mentioned this guy from time to time. And that cornerback position, it's not as tight as you need, as Sammy Watkins demonstrated in that Super Bowl, running by good old Richard Sherman. So Richard Sherman, he's still a valuable player in this league, can still play. But who was it? Who was the cornerback? Somebody was getting roasted at one point. Was it Emmanuel Mosley?
I think was it Mosley? I think it was Mosley. It was somebody getting beat pretty damn bad on that.
I know. I talked about Sherman getting roasted, but there was one guy that was just getting roasted exclusively. So they need some cornerback help. I'm thinking about Damon Arnett at Ohio State. They got to make that position a little better.
Yeah, I kind of saw wide receiver would be their first choice, but Jay brings up a very good point about them only having the 2 first-round picks and then a large chunk of time, and most teams would go, we maybe want to get some more in the middle there. You know, the trade-up scenarios, again, you have to also have a team that wants to trade up. I would think that actually the Broncos might want to come up to 13 just to get the receiver they actually want, so that'd be one to watch on trade day or on draft day. But if not, you have your pick of your Judys, your Lambs, your Ruggs. I think, any of those guys would be good picks in the top of the round there. And then if they don't go there, then I think at corner, if they were to trade out anyway, I think corner at 31 is where they're going to want to go. Again, Sherman has been really solid, surprisingly enough, but he's getting up there in age. And like you all said, the other side was just like a clown show for a while. I like Mel Kiper's pick of sending Auburn's Noah Abengagne. think that's how you say that. Sorry. Their way. He's possibly there at 31. He has tremendous athletic ability. He's a 4-year starter, and would not only be to contribute at cornerback, but he's also got some help on special teams as well. So you get a chance to let Sherman kind of spin him up a little bit. You get a big win there, and then if you don't get a wide receiver early, or you come back in the second and third rounds, maybe Michael Pittman Jr. from USC's there, a big guy with some speed limitations, but he was a big target for Garoppolo to throw the ball to.